Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to do my review of AEW's Dynamite. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is for the AEW International Championship. It is Orange Cassidy versus AR Fox. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Orange Cassidy and AR Fox, with Orange Cassidy keeping the pace of the match. AR Fox then hits a moonsault off the apron. Orange Cassidy then gets up, hits a Stun Dog Millionaire on AR Fox. Orange Cassidy and AR Fox both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Fox hitting a senton off the top rope on Orange Cassidy for a near fall. Orange Cassidy then gets up, hits a beach break on AR Fox for a near fall. Fox then gets up, hits a springboard Spanish fly, as well as a rolling senton off the apron. Orange Cassidy, though, ultimately hits a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW International Champion, is Orange Cassidy. After the match, AR Fox then attacks Orange Cassidy, and then Darby Allin comes to the ring to confront AR Fox. And then Jon Moxley comes to the ring as well to attack Orange Cassidy. Hats off to Orange Cassidy for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we have a Jack Perry segment. Jack Perry walks to the ring, mocking Hook. He also mocks the FTW Championship. He also goes ahead and takes jabs at Taz and ECW. Jerry Lynn then makes his way down to the ring. He ends up hyping up ECW. And it looks like Jerry Lynn's going to challenge Jack Perry for the FTW Championship. A couple things I want to say about this, man, as far as Jack Perry. Number one, I think for me still it's going to take a long time for me to get used to him being a heel. Number one. Number two, the entrance music's also going to take me a while to get used to. But what I will say, and again, this might be a hot take for most people to understand, I still believe the FTW Championship is just a title that's just not needed. I wouldn't even put it as a secondary championship at this point. I don't know why the championship is even still in AEW. It's not really needed. Jerry Lynn coming out, obviously I understand why he did come out to the ring last night, due to the fact that, Jack Perry was mocking ECW as well as the FTW Championship, and, the FTW Championship is synonymous in ECW. It was created in ECW. Taz had created that belt with his time in ECW. So obviously, understand the storyline there between Jerry Lynn and Jack Perry. But am I excited to see Jerry Lynn possibly back in the ring? Not entirely. I mean, I'm not knocking anything away or taking anything away from Jerry Lynn. I think Jerry Lynn's a great wrestler in his time, severely underrated. I think his best parts of his career was in ECW. Obviously, he wrestled for Impact Wrestling as well, but everybody remembers Jerry Lynn from his time in ECW. And ECW was a legendary promotion. A lot of legendary names have walked through the doors of ECW, and I mentioned this multiple times in the past as well. Guys like Chris Benoit, guys like Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, even Stone Cold Steve Austin at one time, Cactus Jack, Mikey Whipwreck, Tajiri. There's just enough, a couple of names that walked through the door that I can remember that made an impact on the wrestling business. So ECW is absolutely 100% a legendary promotion. But with that being said, do I want to see Jerry Lynn in the ring? Not really. But again, I do look forward to this match next week, or this face-to-face between Jack Perry and Jerry Lynn, and how this might all, play its way out. It could be that other ECW legends next week come to AEW Dynamite to kind of teach Jack Perry a lesson about, loyalty to the FTW Championship, as well as him mocking ECW. Some of these ECW legends or alumni might come over to AEW for a one-off and kind of teach Jack Perry a lesson. So definitely looking forward to that. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Gravity making his AEW Dynamite debut versus Pac. The match itself was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Gravity and Pac, with Gravity keeping the pace of the match. Gravity then hits a power slam on Pac outside of the ring, but Pac ultimately applies a submission hold on Gravity. Gravity taps out, and your winner of the match is Pac. Hats off to Pac for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Darby Allin versus Swerve. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Darby Allin and Swerve, with Darby Allin keeping the pace of the match. Darby then hits a code red on Swerve on the outside. Swerve then hits a flatliner on Darby Allin in the middle of the ring. Darby then hits a stunner off the top rope that looked absolutely brutal. Swerve then gets up, hits a Death Valley driver off the top rope down to the apron. It looked absolutely devastating. AR Fox is here. He ends up attacking Darby Allin. Swerve then takes advantage of that, hits the finish on Darby Allin, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Swerve. After the match, AR Fox ends up joining Swerve and Prince Nana in the Embassy. So, looks like AR Fox is a part of a new faction with Swerve and Prince Nana, known as the Embassy, which that stable is looking pretty well at this point, obviously, with, Brian Cage, Swerve, now the addition of AR Fox. And a lot of people might not be happy that AR Fox joined the Embassy, but honestly, at this point, I think it's a good thing for AR Fox. He's a great athlete, fantastic wrestler, student of the game. And to be honest with you, adding another addition to the Embassy with, Swerve being there and Prince Nana, Brian Cage, adding a guy like AR Fox is only, going to elevate that faction, in my honest opinion. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything for Swerve adding more members to his faction, so I'm all for it, man. But hats off to Swerve for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Taya Valkyrie versus Britt Baker. I thought it was an okay matchup, back and forth matchup between Valkyrie and Baker, with Valkyrie keeping the pace of the match. Valkyrie and Baker then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Baker hitting a Panama Sunrise on Taya Valkyrie. But Baker ultimately applies a lockjaw as well on Valkyrie, and your winner of the match is Britt Baker. Hats off to Britt Baker for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of AEW's Dynamite. It is Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus the Best Friends versus the Lucha Bros. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup with all teams involved, with Moxley and Claudio keeping the pace of the match. Orange Cassidy is here, which causes a distraction. Penta ends up hitting the finish, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Lucha Bros. Hats off to the Lucha Bros for getting the win in this matchup. Couple things I want to say about Dynamite last night, man. Number one, was it a great show? No, it was not. If I'm being brutally honest with y'all, man, and I have been, this was not a good Dynamite. Honestly, it was lackluster, to be honest with you. And I think one of the biggest things, and I had to say this, because when I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and when I'm right, I'm right. Honestly, last week or the past few weeks, I was super excited about this show at Wembley with All In. This was a show, the event that started all this with AEW, and, Meltzer putting out that thing about, the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes, and, they made this event, and it took off, and obviously, it moved on to them creating AEW. And that's all great. It's fantastic. And I'm not saying AEW is, going downhill or anything when I say this, but I will say this, man. I was kind of hoping that at least one match would be announced, or a storyline will be built towards or leaning towards All In. And we haven't got that yet, man. I mean, we got 3 weeks left, I believe, to All In. And we have no match announced or no build leading up to this match. Now, I know there was like a little thing with MJF backstage about, obviously their match coming up this weekend on Collision, which I think Collision is going to be absolutely stacked. With the tag team matchup with FTR versus Adam Cole and MJF. You got the ladder match with Buddy Matthews and Andrade. It's going to be a stacked card, man, this weekend for Collision. But besides the point, All In is just not, the build is, there's no build right now. I mean, we're about, I believe, 3 weeks out, and nothing's been highlighted. Nothing's been, like, on the books about, who's going to be on the card, anything else like that. Like, we have nothing at this point. And is it alarming? Yeah, because at this point, are they going to sell out Wembley? Probably. If I had to be 100% honest, I think they're probably sitting at 80,000 seats right now sold. And that's, you're not that far from selling out Wembley Stadium, which is a very, very big deal, especially for AEW. Huge news for AEW. But with that being said, man, there's no build leading up to this pay-per-view, and it's not really, how do I put this? Yeah, I'm excited for the show, but I'm not anticipating anything crazy right now, or super, super excited about the show due to the fact that nothing's being played out, nothing's being booked. There's no matches announced currently right now for All In. And right now, everything's up in the air. And on top of that, I mean, literally a week after All In, we have All Out in Chicago. So maybe Tony Khan finally backed himself in a corner with this All In show being so close to All Out. I mean, there's nothing being booked right now for All In. And it is alarming. It is, man, because a lot of people, are traveling over to Wembley. A lot of people have bought seats, and, obviously, the crowd over there in Wembley is going to be absolutely insane, and a lot of people over there are anticipating this event. And if I was Tony Khan, yeah, I would be doing my absolute best to pull out all the punches for this show. I mean, this is one of your biggest shows of the year, if not the biggest show of the year. With being at Wembley and being almost sold out and having 80,000, seats sold. If I was Tony Khan, yeah, I would kind of, put the best show out I can possibly can, for this event. And right now we're just not getting anything. And I feel like Tony Khan has this, how do I put this? Tony Khan has this deal, man, where every time these pay-per-views come around, it's like he wasted the absolute last minute to start pushing out these storylines and then finally putting it on the pay-per-view where no one's, it's hard to get invested in these storylines because it's last-minute booking leading up to the pay-per-view. For example, like Blood and Guts was awesome, and the storyline built itself, which the reason why I'm using that as an example is that storyline between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite was going on for months. Like, why are we not getting that same stuff leading up to All In? And honestly, for what it's worth, I think Blood and Guts that happened like a week ago was probably the best Dynamite of the year so far at the TD Garden. I mean, it was a fantastic event from top to bottom. So yeah, man, it's definitely alarming for All In. I know that they're trying to kind of book matches for All Out. I think Darby Allin won the Rampage Battle Royale or something like that and gets an opportunity at the TNT Championship at All Out, which is great, but that's literally after All In. Why are we not focusing on All In, which is the biggest show of the year for this company? And that's where, again, man, I have to point the finger at Tony Khan for this, because there's too much stuff going on for Tony Khan. I mean, you're running 3 companies, well, not 3 companies, but you're doing 3 shows every week. I mean, you're doing Dynamite, you're doing Collision, and Rampage, so that's 3 right there, and Ring of Honor. So, I mean, unless he's creating a writing team or something, or putting other people in charge. I even said from the beginning, man, when all this stuff was announced, even with Ring of Honor, when all that speculation was coming out, and then he finally, said that he had purchased Ring of Honor, I was kind of hoping that he would go a general manager standpoint for Ring of Honor and maybe even shows for AEW, but that's not the case. And I think it's starting to show, man. I really do. I think it's a lot of stuff on this guy's plate. And at times I feel like it's taken away the storylines and the build-up leading up to these pay-per-views. I do. I'm sorry, man. And I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, maybe you're an AEW super fan. I'm not, man. If it's bad, it's bad. I'm going to tell y'all it's bad. And last night was bad. I'm not going to sit here and hype up a show that just wasn't newsworthy, wasn't that good. It wasn't really remotely even entertaining. I mean, yeah, Swerve and Darby Allin was a great match. And those guys have a lot of history together from their times in Evolve and stuff like that. They've had fantastic matches every single time those 2 guys stepped in the ring. Fantastic competitors, great rivals. It makes for a great storyline, great match. Absolutely. And that match was very entertaining. But, there was some stuff on there last night that just wasn't needed. I'm a big fan of Orange Cassidy. I am. I think Orange Cassidy is great. He's done a hell of a job carrying that AEW International Champion. He's been doing a hell of a job defending that belt. But with that being said, we had to get Orange Cassidy on Dynamite every single night being the first match of the night. You know what I mean? I feel like it's getting to a point where we're getting too much Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy, he's not old, but he's up there in age, man. I think he's 39 years old. I know he just got another deal with AEW where he's, going to try to be a producer as well and be in a more backstage role as well as his in-ring career, which I think is absolutely great. I mean, obviously he's planning for the future. Obviously he knows that he's not going to be able to wrestle forever. So, he wants to stick around in the wrestling business and be a producer and help out AEW, which I'm sure Tony Khan is all for that. I'm sure a lot of people in the back are completely for that, man. Orange Cassidy is a workhorse, man. That guy, pretty much does everything AEW asks that guy to do, and he does it. Whether he's sick, tired, or hurting, he's there. My only stickler with Orange Cassidy is that he doesn't need to be the first match on every single Dynamite. That's my biggest thing with Orange Cassidy. And to be honest with you, it kind of reminds me of what Nitro used to do back in the day where, Eric Bischoff was running Nitro and a lot of the first matches for Nitro were cruiserweight matches. And I'm not taking anything away from those matches. The cruiserweight division, and I've stressed this multiple times, man. If you guys have, the network or anything else like that, and you go back and watch some of those WCW matches in cruiserweight division, I mean, it's severely underrated. Number one, those matches and the talent they had in WCW as, for cruiserweights. Some of those cruiserweight matches back in the day, and I mentioned this multiple times in the past, man, could have main evented any pay-per-view WCW put together. Absolutely. Eddie versus Rey Mysterio, come on. You know what I mean? Like, the cruiserweight division was severely, severely underrated. You had guys like Billy Kidman, Benoit, Guerrero, Dean Malenko, who's severely underrated. Jericho. You know, any of those guys could have main evented any pay-per-view for WCW at that time, and it was great, but I kind of feel like it's rinse and repeat with what they're doing with Orange Cassidy, the same thing that Bischoff was doing with the Cruiserweight division in WCW. You know, Orange Cassidy does not need to be the opening point of every single Dynamite for the near future. It just doesn't need to happen. And honestly, for what it's worth, it does. I feel like in some small way, it does take away a little bit of, how do I put this? It takes away a little bit of the importance of the International Championship. Like, if you want to book him every Dynamite, that's fine. But why keep putting him on the same, you know, opening match every single night? If you want to have some importance to that title, make it the co-main. Make it the main event. Make it the third match leading up to the main event. Not the first match on. You know, that's just my honest opinion, man. I mean, if that's the point, if that's the, you know, the way they're going, then they might as well make another, you know, a Cruiserweight Championship or something for AEW, which, do they need that? Absolutely not, because they have enough titles as it is. You know, there's been rumors that Collision, and Andrade put out a tweet a while back ago saying that they wanted, you know, belts for Collision. They have way too many championships right now for Dynamite as a whole. There's no, I think it would be a complete disaster if they added more belts to Collision. It's just not needed at all. I mean, with that being said, was it a great Dynamite? No, man, it just wasn't. You know, there's no build leading up to All In, which is very concerning. You know, we got 3 weeks, I believe, until All In, and nothing's being highlighted right now. Nothing's being built leading up to All In. There's no matches announced right now currently, so it is a little alarming because it is one of their biggest shows of the year, if not the biggest show of the year for AEW. Jack Perry and this whole Jerry Lynn thing, like I mentioned earlier, man, it's cool to see Jerry Lynn. Does he need to be back in the ring again? No. Gravity, decent debut for AEW. Darby Allin and Swerve, to me, was the best match on the card last night. Taya Valkyrie and Britt Baker, again, man, just lackadaisical match. And it's one of those things, too. And again, I'm not going to knock, you know, Taya Valkyrie and Britt Baker, but what I will say is this, man, where in the hell is Tony Storm and where is Chris Statlander? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Statlander won this belt and you're hardly really seeing her. Like, I know she just had a match on Rampage recently, but why is she not being showcased on Dynamite? Where the hell is Tony Storm? You know what I mean? Like, you're not bringing importance to these, you know, these titles, man. A lot of the main title that's honestly getting pushed right now is Orange Cassidy's international championship. You know, that's just the main thing. You don't see MJF defending his belt right now because he's in a storyline with Adam Cole. The FTW championship might be defended, maybe. But that's it, man. I mean, mainly it is Orange Cassidy and the international championship that's being really spotlighted right now on Dynamite and AEW. That's just the way it is. And honestly, the main event last night, I don't understand I don't know where they were going with this main event. I know Pac was a big key component in the storyline, I guess, if you want to call it that, with the Blackpool Combat Club, but having Moxley and Claudio teaming up against Best Friends and the Lucha Bros, I guess I'm lost in the sauce on this, but what the hell does the Best Friends and the Lucha Bros have anything to do with what the Blackpool Combat Club are doing at all? I mean, maybe you can say, okay, well, Pac's a part of the Lucha Bros, but okay, I get that. Where are the Best Friends fall into place with this? I feel like the Best Friends were just slotted into this match because they had nothing else to do and they weren't being booked as of late. I feel like it was a sloppy show last night. And it really was not a good show, man. It just wasn't. And if I was Tony Khan, I would heavily start considering booking, matches for All In, because it is alarming when it's 3 weeks away, 80,000 seats sold out at Wembley. One of the most anticipated shows of the year, and nothing's on the books yet, man. Nothing's booked. There's no storylines leading to All In right now. Nothing's on the table for All In. Nothing. And to me, I'm sorry, man, but that's very alarming considering that you got 80,000 seats sold. It's the biggest pay-per-view of the year that you guys have this year. Biggest show of the year, period. And nothing's on the books, man. It's definitely alarming with All In, if I'm being 100% honest with y'all. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.